All right, well, very, very nice to talk with you, Sister Carmelita, and get a sense of the history. My first question, if you can just tell us a little bit about your background as a Sister of Mercy, and then specifically how you got involved with the House of Mercy and what your role there was.
I was in education several years of my life. I've been in pastoral care since 1990. And I have a master's degree in pastoral care. And I loved working in the parishes, of course, and I wanted to continue that ministry. And that's how I really got involved in the House of Mercy. Have an opportunity to do pastoral care where there was a real need. I came to Belmont to a home for women and children. I was the house manager there. In July 192, I guess I started there. And I started the same time at the House of Mercy, and I would go maybe 3 times a week, sometimes a half an hour, sometimes an hour, sometimes several hours, depending on the health of the resident that I might be dealing with at that particular time. If they were seriously ill, meeting with the family, and just enjoyed doing that and being part of that,
Yeah, yeah. And how many years were you involved with the House of Mercy in that capacity?
I am still in at the House of Mercy.
Oh, okay.
Since July 192.
Wow. Okay. And doing many other things as well, I'm sure, but that's a great
Wait a
record.
minute, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong year.
Oh, okay.
That's July 1, 2002.
Oh, okay. Okay. All
House of
right.
Mercy.
Yeah.
Pastor there was 90.
Yeah. All right. Great. Well, do you remember, I'm asking you do you remember the first person you had contact with at the House of Mercy when you walked in for that first day of ministry there? Do you remember who you met and what your feelings, your impressions were?
Well, I knew Shirley Stowe, and I had visited there several times before I started ministry at the House of Mercy. And that was a kind of a nice affirmation to go in and meet Shirley and that. When I walked into the house, Ellen, I thought, wow, what a beautiful home. I wasn't sure what to expect for a medical facility. It didn't look like a medical facility at all. It looked like just a beautiful home. You walked right into the living room, and there were a couple of residents there that day when I came down the first stop, and I introduced myself and visited with Shirley for a while. And then when I came back and to do ministry there, I think the living room was empty.
Oh.
First people I met were the staff. And as I said, the house as a home, it's a true home. It's set up as a home. It has a living room. It has a big den. It has activity room. I mean, it's just, I was really impressed with the setup. That's mercy.
Yeah. Create a home.
Create a home, make it a home. That's why it's called the House of Mercy rather than some medical name.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you know, I mean, the house, we interviewed Sister Mary Wright and Shirley, and, the house was set up, has prided itself on being a home and creating that kind of atmosphere you talked about and not a medical facility. How did you see residents respond to that sense of this is a home and not simply a place where I'm going to receive medical care?
My experience has been they're just in awe when they walk into the house. It's not what they expect at all. I guess they expect like a hospital setting or something of that nature. They just seem to fall in love with the house when they come in first.
Yeah.
And it's a lovely living room is lovely because you can come in and sit down and share and talk with residents and
Mm,
be at home with them. That's
yeah.
so important, to be at home with them,
Mm-hmm.
not treat them as somebody with a disease,
All right. Yeah.
accepting them for who they are as persons. First,
Mm-hmm.
first and foremost, God's special people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Were you able to see any of the residents sort of change who might have come in expecting a hospital situation in sort of a medical facility? Did you witness anyone really change and observe changes in them as they got used to being at home and maybe feeling loved and secure, protected? Do you remember any?
Being at home in the new home.
Yeah, who sort of went through a transformation?
Yes. I could see some of the residents, it really did bring change to their lives
Mm,
because they weren't, most of them do not come from a home setting.
right.
They're coming from the street or some homeless shelter.
Mm, yeah.
It's a very different situation. And they're just, every day is a special day for them at the House of Mercy, as far as I could see.
Right.
And their atmosphere, the atmosphere of the house changed their thinking of themselves also.
Ah.
You
Mm,
know, that they were not patients,
mm-hmm.
rather they were part of a home.
Ah, yeah.
I could
Ah.
see that change. When they came in first, they thought of themselves as being patients.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
they began to see themselves as part of this home.
Mm,
You know, this is their family now. And we
mm,
kind of focus on that.
mm-hmm.
This is their family. They share together. They eat meals together in common. They do activities together. They go on field trips. They do things as a family,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's thanks to the wonderful staff we have,
mm-hmm.
you know, they have really set the tone for the house.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I'm sure other residents welcoming in new residents coming in set the tone. So it's happening.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this with, you were mentioning, some of the residents coming from shelters or being homeless or perhaps very bad family situations. In your experience, did you perceive any discrimination or stigmatization or inequality in the lives of the residents in terms of being persons who are poor or being homeless or gender or racial kinds of uh, tensions that they experienced as they came into the house?
I had seen that question on your paper, but
Yeah.
I did not experience that. What I
Okay.
experienced occasionally, we would have residents that were not as respectful of staff as they should have been.
Mm, mm-hmm.
Now, I noticed that sometimes white residents were a little, I don't want to say upset, a little disturbed sometimes about the way they were cared for because
Mm.
nurse was
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
black, and I don't know what they expected, but it was more,
Mm-hmm.
but between the residents themselves, white and black, I never saw anything.
Okay. Okay. Did you perceive them also coming into the House of Mercy having experienced racism and discrimination because they were poor or homeless? Did they come in with that kind of baggage and did they have to work through that?
They definitely had to work through it. Those who came in from shelters, some of them come from hospitals,
Mm-hmm.
but it took them some of them, a little while to work through who they thought they were and who they really were.
Mm. Ah,
Make that distinction about I'm just somebody nobody cares about to a loving environment.
mm.
I am important. I am important. I have something to offer here too.
Right. Yeah.
And they would learn to share with other residents and talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. And,
Mm-hmm.
and they were open enough to talk about their disease.
Ah, yeah.
Some were even open enough to say, I was stupid to have gotten involved
Mm-hmm.
with drugs and that. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
had to.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of
More,
personal growth you're seeing in the residents. Yeah.
more of my experience of working with the resident was the one-on-one,
Mm.
because I would visit each resident as an individual. I wouldn't as an individual, not in a group.
Mm.
One of the difficult things I've tried, and Sister Mary Goretti, who preceded me in that ministry, getting them to come together and have something spiritual
Mm.
that just didn't. But then the one-on-one in their rooms, I had seen some beautiful, beautiful, beautiful experiences.
Mm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
Gradually, they would open up to me. You know, I'm a stranger to them too. They would gradually open up, and often I felt like, gosh, they're just making a confession to me. As we say in
Mm.
the Catholic Church, go to confession.
Right. Yeah.
It was
Mm.
very sacred moments for me, I assure you. Very sacred time for the one-on-one with a resident, especially those who are really struggling with how they got the disease, to
Mm.
understanding that God loved them.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Some of them they just couldn't see themselves being loved by God because of the way they live. And to come to that understanding, help them to come to that, about our loving God,
Mm.
it was beautiful. It was,
Yeah.
and to see, for me, it was always that they could die in peace,
Mm. Right.
knowing that they were loved by God,
Yeah.
that they had come to that realization over time.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's a long struggle. It was a long struggle for several of the people I ministered with
Mm. Mm-hmm.
to realize that God did love them in spite of their lifestyle.
Right. Yeah. Mm.
It's and then when a resident would die in the house, sometimes we were able to go to the funeral. The residents could go to.
Mm.
Most of the time, not. So I would have a memorial service at the house
Mm.
to honor that deceased member. And one of the beautiful experiences of many that I had was this young man, rather quiet. He played a guitar, he had his own guitar. And when I would open it up to sharing for anyone who would like to say something or a memory of the person and that, and this young man said, I have written a song.
Mm.
And he played it on his guitar, and
Yeah.
it was a moving experience.
Mm.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, beautiful
Mhm.
that he'd gotten to know the resident well enough that he could write a song about that person. It's just,
Mhm.
I've had many moving experiences in the on their spiritual journey with them.
Oh, yeah.
And they have enriched my spiritual journey too.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
Works both ways.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
Because some of them have a very deep spirituality,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
hadn't been developed as much
Mhm.
as it could have been, you know.
And I'm sure, I know some residents were Catholic and knew, who Sisters of Mercy were. Some you may have been the first nun some ever met. Did you have anybody say, "Oh, who are you and what's this Sister of Mercy thing?"
Not really, because I would introduce myself and tell them a little bit about what a Sister of Mercy was.
Yeah,
You know?
okay.
The, the only question they ever asked me, Ellen, was, how come you don't wear that dress?
Oh, yeah, right.
That was the only thing they ever said to me about the Sister
Right.
of Mercy was, how come you don't wear that dress?
Yeah, yeah.
And explaining that in history of community, but
Oh, Lord, yeah. It's a long history.
long history is right, you know.
Yeah. Will you, well, go ahead. Were you gonna say something? I don't wanna,
I was going to say, well, this kind of running around. When we opened the house, my understanding was it was for the terminally ill.
mm,
And the residents we took in at the beginning were terminally ill. You know, most of them were on their journey home to eternity. Now, I would say at least 30% go back out into apartments.
mhm.
But what I was going to say about the terminal illness, we have residents there now, 6, 7 years. We have one there that's 9 or 10 years, 9 years.
Mm,
And I do wonder what direction it will take.
yeah.
Because
Mhm,
they're really living there like a retirement home more than anything.
mhm.
But they still have the virus in their system.
Right, yeah. Question. What, when you were at the House of Mercy, most challenging aspect of the work for you? Hardest part of it?
I find sometimes it's very difficult to get a resident to open up. Um, Not that they have to open up to me or to anyone else, but when you know a person is suffering and a person is in pain just from brief things that have been said and being rejected, they don't want anyone coming into the room and they don't want to talk about God. That's always difficult. I take it away and pray for them. And most often they do come around to accepting God in their lives. But it can be very challenging at times. I don't take it as a rejection, but for them, that's what they're doing at the time, you know. And that's challenging in the sense I want to be able to reach them, but I'm not sure yet of the next step type.
All right, yeah.
No,
What do I do now? Kind of thing. Oh,
I
good.
enjoy every day I go to House of Mercy, even with a difficult resident. They just need a few extra prayers. They are, you have to work through things with each individual, and they are all individuals when it comes to the one-on-one helping them and helping the families. Some families we don't see. Some families, it's very important when you're there and they're so appreciative of when you pray with them, with their child or their son or daughter, and with them at the same time. It gives them comfort. I see that often in families. They're comforted by the being together and praying and allowing them to open up and pray too if they feel they can do that. It's very difficult for families, especially with rather young, many of ours are young, sons or daughters suffering from the disease. Because some there is no hope, we know that. We always say there's hope. but more and more, there is a lot of hope for people because of,
Yeah.
as I said, the advances in medications. It gives them great hope,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
and the care. Often it's the care they need, tender, loving care that they didn't have before they came in. That's
Right.
part of the healing for them too.
Yeah, right.
Acceptance, you know.
Mhm.
That's a wonderful ministry. It's always been a great ministry of the Sisters of Mercy, anyone who has ministered there,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. I can hear in your voice that what it's meant for you, in your life. And you said, working a lot of the rest, it's very sacred.
It is sacred time and sacred space when you're with them.
Right. Yeah. 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 Do you have any particular stories or experiences that you remember, or times that you laughed and just had a great time, or any particular stories or experiences?
My experiences is mostly when we do memorial services are touching there
Mm,
and how residents really
yeah.
share. Some never say a word, but there's always those few who will speak and share about
Mm,
their experience of knowing the person.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then we have some fun things. They play bingo and they do other things. And I just kind of tease the residents about how many cards they can get in front of them or whatever it may be.
Oh, yeah, right.
We celebrate birthdays down there. That can be a lot of fun.
Mm,
And they love it, of course. I mean, who doesn't like to have their birthday celebrated,
that's right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the staff there always make it special for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Their birthday and it's all decorated and birthday cakes and what have you.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah. I was thinking that's so important, the birthdays, and Shirley in her interview talked about the birthdays, and I was thinking when you were talking about people, residents there coming, and because it's a home, feeling they're important as a person and they matter as a person. Celebrating their birthday, sort of reinforces that. That's really beautiful.
And all the holidays, all the
Hmm.
special holidays.
Yeah, yeah.
It's Valentine's, St. Patrick's, Christmas, Easter, all of these are very special times for them.
Hmm.
And the home is always decorated for the occasion.
Ah, okay. That's fun. Do the residents help decorate, or is it largely the staff, or both of them?
They both do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 How about meals?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The meals is family style,
Hmm.
and the meals are good, nutritious meals. The meals are all home cooked in the kitchen.
Mm,
You know.
right.
Um,
Did the staff cook the meals, or?
yes,
Okay, yeah.
it's a small house, so the staff does the cooking as well as the
Mm,
medical aspect of it,
right. Mm,
and the cleaning for the most part.
wow.
The with the virus now, usually there's always volunteers there that do a lot of that type of work too. And,
Yeah.
and sometimes they'll come in and decorate for a special occasion, inside and outside,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm,
And then they have some groups that come in from time to time to do something special and
right.
prepare the dinner or bring a dinner in
Mm-hmm.
and give them a gift of a gift card so they can go shopping.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That
I
is nice.
They get lots of nice things.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they're always overwhelmed with all the gifts they get for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is so
The lo-
nice.
the local community is so supportive of the ministry,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when we started and there was so much opposition, I believe, to
Yeah.
having a
Mm-hmm.
name now, And then I thought back about Catherine McCauley when she started the first house in Dublin.
Right.
She says the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people didn't want it, didn't want the poor in their neighborhood even.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like a repeat of history. We
Mm.
open new ministries.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. And thank God people have the courage to just keep on forging on and, get through all that and create a ministry that helps. Thank God. That's God's work.
Absolutely, it's God's word.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
nothing ever stopped Catherine McCauley from responding to the needs of the time.
That is the truth. Yeah.
And we have carried on her charism of mercy doing that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I
I would,
haven't.
I would end it by saying the House of
Yes.
Mercy is a house with heart,
Hmm.
compassionate, loving care.
Hmm.
That's what we want to carry on at the House
Yeah.
of Mercy, compassionate, loving care.
Oh, right. Well, that's a beautiful way to end this interview and our talk. And thank you so much for your time,
Thank
your
you
generosity.
again for doing it. You